In this episode, where it doesn't follow the greater scheme of things, we're going to get a little bit ahead of ourselves to try and get you excited in what's coming. So what we're going to do is we're not going to UV map and so on for what we're going to do. We're going to put a wraparound on this lighter with a picture, which is going to look like a sticker that's stuck around it with a barcode and everything. So what we're going to do is we're just going to give the PET polymer its shade. So what you do is you select the item, 3 for polygons, double click to select all of them, and all of them in the inside. You'll see that there will be 2 split parts there. And then you press the M button for material. I've already applied PET plastic there. Type it in if it's not there, say OK, and this will create a new material group. There will be a default material assigned inside that group. Delete that by clicking on it and pressing delete, or right clicking and selecting delete. Click on that group and press F6 to open your material libraries. Now I assume that you've got a trial version or a paid for version of MODO, and we're going to use downloaded material, predefined materials. So underneath materials, go to plastic and select a PVC. Or plastic. Yes, bottle plastic. Double click bottle plastic number 1. Now what we'll be doing is we'll be targeting some of these materials in here, and we'll just begin a little bit of diffuse on this and select the diffuse color, and let's say we're going to make this blue. Change that to blue, and then the specular color to blue, and just increase that a bit. And then the material transparency amount, bring that down a bit. Transparency color, click on the color and also select that blue. It's kind of weird that this guy didn't change his material look. Yes, yes. Okay, pause out. I shouldn't be struggling with shaders. I'm going to pause this. Pause. Okay. Okay, after deleting all of the contents underneath PET plastic, press F6 again so we can start over. Ensure we're going to put down a physical sun and sky to give a lot of light. so that it's not a dark scene. Ensure beforehand that if there's anything under environment, you'll be able to click on that, but won't be able to select that first environment grouping, which looks like a little crystal ball. Select the item underneath it and delete it. If there's any lights, click on all of the lights and delete the lights inside the scene. Underneath items, ensure that you delete any grouping that has an indication that it might be objects and items that has to do with a shading tree. So this is a blank slate. Let me take this away. We press F6 on the keyboard, and underneath environments, outdoor, double click physical sun and sky. Click on physical sky and do visible to camera, switch that off. Right, so what I did was I deleted everything under a pet plastic. I selected all of the child instances, layers and groups, and I deleted all of them. So now we're at a blank slate with this group. With this group selected, okay, before we do the group, let me quickly explain to you how to just put down a shader system. Whatever lights or scenes or whatever might have been preloaded with the startup of your scene. Underneath environments, you'll see that little crystal ball, which will be your environment grouping. Sometimes you'll have multiple of them underneath one environment set, but you can delete any one of them that's underneath the first one. You can't delete the last one. Open up any, if you have this, you should have one. You will have one of these. If there's an expand option, expand and delete the physical the physical sky material by right clicking and saying delete. If there's any lights in the scene, maximize the lights and select all of the lights. You can click the above light item and the lowest one after holding shift, and it'll select all of them if there are a few. So now press F6 to open your presets library, and under environments and outdoors, double click on physical sun and sky. This will automatically load the physical sun and sky environment into your scene. Click on the sky environment crystal ball, right click and or no, not right click, go to the bottom here and say visible to camera, click that for off. Click on your lighter object, press 3 and just scroll around to select all of those polygons and press M, say pet plastic. We did this already, so just say OK and click on pet plastic and press F6. Go to your materials and go to plastic and click on plastic and double click on bottle plastic. Expand bottle plastic to all of its so you can see it's quite a vast. The diffuse is locked. Unlock the diffuse. It's quite a vast material network. But what we are going to do, we're just going to start from the top. This is not the correct way of doing it. This is to help you to just start off and just to modify stuff out of free will to get your first scenes going. So under diffuse color, that makes the most sense that it will help us to change the color. Go down here. Let's select the blue. Let's see what it does. Not a lot. Okay, I'm looking for a material rather. Master color looks like a good bet. So diffuse color. Keep in mind that I'm not doing this too scripted. I modeled the lighter out beforehand, and what I did was I said, okay, let me not do this without making any mistakes, so that you can see what mistakes I make as I go along. And I'm making much more mistakes trying to explain this, to be honest, but nevertheless, this is part of the beginning when you start this material. When you start out, you make a little bit of mistakes. Sometimes you have to fix them from scratch. Sometimes you can jippo it and get it working and get the scene right without too much drama. So yeah. I'm going to put down blooper videos as well. So we changed the diffuse color, the diffuse specular color. The diffuse amount I'm taking up a bit, and the transparency amount I'm bringing down. Now we would start seeing it. All right, so there we've got that bit of our lighter. All right. I see we've got something funny looking there on the inside, but I think it's those lines that are causing that gradient to change from the outside. So don't worry too much. If you look on the inside, it's fine. You see. So now we're going to change this lighter guard after placing that black piece of plastic, which will be very, very, very quick. And changing the shader of this and the plastic and making a quick render to get you excited to what you are busy building. So I'm selecting this guy, and I'm pressing 2, and I'm selecting that very, very corner edge, the one that runs exactly on the edge. Control C to copy that line. Underneath items, add a new mesh. While the new mesh is selected, press Control and press V to paste those lines. Press W. Oh my word! I didn't copy those edges. Double click. Control C, Control V. All right. So press W so we can translate this. There we've got these lines of fresh. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to go in as close as possible, but not exactly upon. It's just. So we see this is not perfectly flat. I'm selecting all of these vertices, and under vertex we are going to set the position to our y-axis. No, sorry, to our position to x-axis. Let me explain this to you. Let me first, which angle was I at now? I was at right. Okay, this is our right angle. I'm going to go to perspective from our right angle. So what I did was I scaled. Let me jump back. I actually made poo-poo. So we are going to align these vertices along the y-axis. Now when we look at them, they're on a straight line. So let's do this again. I just reverted. Those vertices aren't, we are control space, remember, and right. We are looking at orthographically exactly from the right hand angle, and it's messed up. I mean, look at the spaces. These spaces can be, I can make that space a kilometer, as quantum physics has proven. Space in between space, exactly, there's a problem there. There should be a straight line. So we're going to make that little black thing from a baseline straight line. Okay, so what you do is you select all of them, and then you look at the axis that you want to flatten them on. And in this case, we want to do it on the y, on the green. Look there, the y axis. So a line on the y axis, and now when we look from the right, they are all exactly in a straight line. So bring this very close. We're going to zoom in quite a lot. Oh no, Control Z, I messed up. Let me just grab this thing again. Just to make this a little bit more sense, double click the whole thing, press Z, click on it, and scale this up. This will be that black trimming. Let's make it that thick. Right now, let's just to help us out, change this. Which one was it? I just want to change that. Which one was it? The transparency, to not mess us around too much. Oh, never mind, let's just do this solid. We'll go there for everything that we don't are not working on. We can go, for example, when you let's say you want, for if you have a item selected, and you have that item selected or that item selected. If you click on the item, the method of shading changes for the item that you have selected, and something happens to the rest of the items. So in this case, let's change that all of the items that are not selected changes to wireframe for interest's sake. So click on this little gear, and in inactive meshes, which are meshes that are not selected, click on shading style and select wireframe for a little bit of interest's sake, and change and variation to show you what you can do to make your workflow easier. So let's come in here again and just press 1 to select all of the vertices, and marquee around the bottom area. Press 1 and go in close there. So let's bring it in about that close. Press shift. Press 2 and double click that, go to perspective so that you can see, double click that whole area, that whole edge loop. So let's just take a look at this thing all by itself by holding shift and pressing H to hide all of the other items. So it's just a pipe. There's no cover polygons. So what we'll do is we'll select that edge loop again, press the Z button, oh no, actually, press the Z button, click, and I think I messed up again. Shit, sorry. Boop, boop, my first bloop. So double click the edge line, press Z, click on it, press R to bring in the scale manipulator, and just go in just a little bit. Press the shift button, click again on the, no, don't do that because I mess it up always. If you move a little bit on that oak, it just bombs out completely. Okay, so Z for that's for extend. Click on the edge loop, press R to scale this in and bring it in a bit. And you'll see, because this is not a perfect square, one side will scale more than the other side. So just scale that manipulator of the longer side so that it matches up more or less. Press shift to drop the tool. Z to bring this in again. Scale manipulator and bring it in. And we're not going to worry about closing it up. And the same for the top. Z, or bring it in. Let's just add loops. Let's be lazy. About close as that, and the same here, and I'll put one in the middle just to keep that geometry nice and tight there. Shift and so select your item and run the tab button to see what your rounding does. What we are lacking here is line to keep this part of it tight. So select the item, add loop, add a nice tight one there, and its mate just to help keep it there. Double tap like John Wick. Keep it nice and tight. One and its mate for each side of the corner that the vertex creates. That was a little too tight. Let's run that again. Now this is smoothed out, and you know what? I haven't been paying attention. We should have kept that shape, and you should have stopped me to help me out. So I'm going to add, just to tighten this up, this is a little bit too round. I'm just going to add a sharp one there, and then let's see what this does. It's still a little too round at those corners, so I'm going to put a very sharp one in there, and let's see, just oops. what it did to this one. That's pretty sharp. I'm happy with that. So let's just help this bottom part out with that same. So very close to that edge. I think let's just drop a third. I know it's a little bit overkill, but we're not modeling for money here. We're modeling to make our first thing, and we're not going to follow proper protocol. Okay, so now we run tab. We've got this shape. So let's somewhere immediately shade or materialize this thing. So press 3 to select polygons, double click any one, M, and we've got PE black trim, any name, whichever name you choose. So just delete that default material it puts in there. Click on the material group, and I don't know, I'm just going to expand this. Look at these PVC options. Textured. No. I'm not going to be too picky. I'm thinking, let me just take the lighter I have here. It's actually a little bit of a shiny guy. So I don't want it too shiny. I'm going to take that plastic hose, double click it so that it populates that material inside there. We see these faces are turned inside out. Double click them and press F to flip them out. Press 5 and click anywhere in the scene to unselect all of items, and just press U for unhide. Let's change this back inactive items to defaults. Close that. Just press it twice. Click on the cylinder and press tab to run the smoother. Let's take this. We messed up that corner. I messed up that corner. I'm just going to delete that edge loop. Now it should match up, but I still don't know what's that. I'm going to delete that line that I used to shape from. So this guy still needs to be helped. Let's just sharpen it, and also let's do the same for this guy by selecting all those bottom polygons, and we'll be aligning them also on the y-axis. Okay, so select all of the lines at the bottom and press Z, click on them, and let's see, scale them in a bit. And no, rather not. How are we going to do this? Okay, I'll tell you how we're going to do this. Revert. What we're going to do is we are going to extrude only those. Okay, select all of, let's start here before I explain. Select all of the bottom edges again. Apart from, so you're going to hold Control in and marquee that and that, so that you only have the greater outside edges selected. Okay, press Z, click on them and R on the keyboard and scale this just a very, very little bit in. And scale it out as well a bit. So go to the back and just see what your scaling out is doing, and go to the translate gizmo and just drag this a little bit forward. And you see it's a little bit too sharp there, so let's just make it a little bit smaller. Go back to see what's happening there. There we go. Now I'm going to weld those two vertices together, like so, and so. Seems odd. What happened there? Why do I have two sets of that? Let's just see. I just want to, before I tutor further, I just want to drop that line and see we've got a little bit of a okay. The easiest is, let's say you're in a predicament here where you see your mesh is acting funny, and the amount of work it took to get there was not a great deal. Do the following. Select one and drag around the greater area where you should expect, reasonably expect edges or vertices. So now you see all those vertices. Now your problem there are faces. So again, press 3 and marquee around that whole area, and all of your problem most likely culprit faces are selected. And just press delete to delete all of them. So now we were about half a minute before I said something went wrong. So I'm going to do it this way. I'm going just to double click the whole thing's edge loop, and with control marquee, deselect those, and those long ones, those ones going upward, you are only going to make the appearance of a little bit of a thickening at the bottom area. So press Z or Z, click on it, and now we're going to do this whole tedious task of shrinking on this manipulator and then inflating it a bit again. What I think we need to do is press the translate the move and bring this down a bit. Now we can easily change where these lines are running to. So I'm going to select all of something is not. See, I didn't select all of the edges because there's something up in here that doesn't allow the edge loop to go through. Let's just see what that is. Okay, so let's do this again. Let's select all of these bottom vertices and just align them to the y-axis. Double click. Okay, so let's smooth this guy out and see what's happening. Something is up there. I must probably think there's faces there. So there's faces. I pressed 3 and I'm dragging around. So it's flat faces that are fooling you. And you must be vigilant for those things. While you're modeling they can ruin your work ahead, because it's sometimes you're so into what you're doing, you forget to change the tools that you're working with, and the next time you use it, the reaction is what you expect, but what it created isn't necessarily what's good for the scene that you're working on. And in 9 cases or 99 cases out of 100, it can cause that you have to stop and start over with your work. So I'm going to select all of these edges. So I want them as close as possible. With 2 selected, I'm just going to marquee in that little bit. So now I selected all of them. That's the awesomeness of 3D space. And the same with, so I'm holding shift to click that one as well, and the same with the other side. So this way I'm ensuring that I am getting all of those edges. Shift, marquee around, so now I've got all of those. I'm going to press Z to extend these edges. I'm bringing that a little bit in, almost to where I can weld that. But if I want to weld that there, I have to accommodate the geometry of this area. So I don't think I'm going to do that. That's going to be foolish. And the viewer of this will not see that we cut a bit of corners. So scale this in a bit and move this to the front so you have that bit flat, because this bit will be hidden. Shift to or space to drop that tool completely. All right, for this bit, just ensure you click that guy and then just ensure you follow the same path. I'm actually going to bring this down a bit. No. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Let's just press tab to see if nothing funny is happening, so that we can go ahead and finish this bit. My plane of my bottom vertices messed out again, so I'm just selecting that. That happens as you work. So select all of them, vertices, align, y-axis, okay. So now they're all zoomed in at straight level flush. I am going to merge that guy with that guy. So go to vertices, drag weld, and then you snap. You see that there's edges. There's an edge there that I need to consider. And earlier I said something, I can remember we had something referring to these very same, not edges, faces. So I'm going to have to use the corner of that guy. So drag weld, and we drag weld that corner to that line's corner. So now we have a 5-sided, if we click on this, and we go back to that list we had earlier. Let's just 3 and double click all of the polygons. By vertex or by type, we should have a 5-sided. Anyway, this is a 5-sided polygon, because it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 corners. If you smooth this, it will make a little bit of a ruckus. They don't like smoothing. So how we're going to stop that is we are just going to add a line through there and join it up and cut it through so that it's not a 5-sided dude anymore. So edge, add loop, like so, and then we merge those two guys. Okay. Add loop and just add your loop around there and there to keep this bottom bit nice and tight. So repeat what I did on that side, and then you can complete the mesh on your own, and then when you're done with that, continue where we'll be going on now by scaling this to fit snugly. So I'm going to use the wireframe option, and I'm going to scale not the item but all of the polygons. There's quite of a difference between scaling the polygons and the item itself. So I haven't got all of the polygons. Oh yeah, in orthographical view you have to use the left mouse button and drag marquee to select back items like back faces or back vertices or edges. Just ensure your snapping is not messing you around. So I'm going to translate this a little bit bigger, and now I'm just going to move it with that guy to the back a little bit, but not perfectly, because these lighters aren't produced perfectly. Okay, bring that whole item up from the right hand side. Just put it down where, so we want this gizmo, we want down there because we want to zoom down there. So go to edit, center bounding box. No, you have to have the item selected and not the vertices or the edges. Center bounding box to the bottom. So now we can manipulate this here, and to have a better view of what we're doing, click on the item, and with 3 for faces, double click and I'm doing that for that now. Alright, so let's just do the item then. I'm being overly descriptive. I suggest going back to just to go back to default so that you can have a little bit of clear distinction here. That little bit of gap, that's what you need. That as well. For the bottom bit, we're just going to click on this one, 3, select all those faces, Control C, a new mesh, Control V, and with 5, so that we have the item selected, center bounding box, center, and drag this guy to the bottom, and look from the bottom now so that we can match this up and use wireframe so that we can scale this, because it should be a little bit bigger. So just actually try and get it as center with the cylinder as possible, and scale in until you see parts of the cylinder. You don't want it perfect, because then it's going to look like a rendering. But it must be perfect enough, if you know what I mean. Something like that. And no! So let's just bring that in normally, somewhere in the, in the perspective view plane. No, I want to bring it up. Let's just check it from behind, from bottom. Front. I'm going to scale this in on that angle, and from the right it looks right. default. Just want to save the scene. We're going to have to close that guy, that hole. 2, click on that edge loop, right click, modeling operator, full quads. Okay, and let's do the bottom as well. 2, no, 2. Oh, come on, you sack of wine. Full quads, full quads. Okay, 5, to select items, click on empty area U to bring back your stuff. So this is where we're at. Let's just materialize this thing. So select all of the polygons in it. Press M. Let's say metal for guard. Now once again the default material, it just hoys in there, delete it, click on it, go to F6, and in your metals material folder, I just think let's go with matte or just iron. We're just going to assign iron to this for now. So let's see what this thing is going to look more or less. I think I misled you. This would be good for something where you want to see the background and so on. So just select that and the physical sun and delete them. And with F6, again to your environments, and choose Smart IBL environments, and say something like the helipad afternoon. Double click that, and just ensure that under properties that one of them will be visible to the camera. Just disable that. So let's see. We don't have any white in the background, but we will do that with Photoshop. I see we messed up that edge there. We will fix that. So let's run a quick render. Let's first take a look-see. What happened here? That edge line there, that should be deleted. Okay, so let's run a quick render where we can look at it from an angle where we don't see the rest of the stuff that we shot. We won't actually be able to do it exactly like that, but we go to mesh, to shading, and then at the top click on the render, that purple render node. The size of what we want this thing is, let's say 700, no, frame width something like 400 by 900, because it's a long item. It's like a slenderish item. Let's see what this is going to look like through the camera. That area that's boxed in, that's going to be the area that the computer renders. Let's just preview this quickly and take a look at how the light is behaving. It doesn't look too bad, but we're going to have a blast with this to get this plastic bit looking just right. And with a blast I mean not a blast. Alright, so we don't want this 300 dpi, we want this normal screen size 72 dpi, and these anti-aliasing settings are very high. Change those guys to something lower like that. And in global illumination, let's just do one bounce and the first iteration of indirect beams when you click on that icon. And this as well, let's go to 64-bit indirect rays. I'm in disabling irradiance caching, and let's hope for the best. Let's see. I'm going to run the render and pause the video and start it up again when the render is over. It's going pretty fast, but I'm still going to cut it out. Now that it's rendered out, we can save the image. For the transparent background, I'm going to save it as a PNG. No, Sol render. Sol. And the next scene will have me in Photoshop where I drop a background of white in, and we just tint it up a bit and see what a very hasty render does to the shapes that we have created so far. Alright, so yeah, I have in Photoshop the PNG that I opened of the rendering of the lighter, as well as another rendering that I ran of only the plastic bit, which I took a little bit of time extra that we didn't spend in this tutorial, and I just refined it to look, 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe. We'll be spending a good 2 hours or an hour and a half getting all of the plastics just right. So let me get back a background with white, and we can see how this looks. So this needs to be more transparent, which I fixed there. If we zoom in a bit, you'll see that it diffracts the light inside of there, more or less as you would expect a plastic of that thickness would do. Maybe this one, let's just see if we take this and just use Photoshop's lazy auto color and auto tone, and maybe just brighten it up a bit. It was just a very all of the materials that we did in this video we are going to delete and do over in anyways. This was just to get you to a point where your model starts to look like something that I'm sure you are aspiring to have it look like. So yeah, over and out. We'll see you in lesson number 8.